Hello and welcome to the Chap's Guide. If we haven't met before, my name is Ash Jones and this channel is all about me using my half a century of life experience and sharing that with other chaps or anyone who wants to learn and be part of this community of getting better at all sorts of life skills. So to kick it all off, the first video I'm going to make is about a skill which I've acquired over a decade or more now and affects so many other people, and that's public speaking. Call it what you like, communication skills. It's got all sorts of different names, but what I really am talking about is that moment that people have to stand up and communicate information to other people. Be that on a stage, if you're in a conference, or in a big meeting at work, or you're giving a speech after a wedding or after a funeral, whatever it may be. That's what I'm talking about. Now, it's far too big a subject to cover in just one video. So today I'm just going to cover one part of it, and there'll be a number of other videos to follow, which altogether will helpfully boost people's confidence and give them more skills when it comes to communicating to others. So the first part of the public speaking sort of skills base, which I intend to talk about, is the one thing which pretty much everybody suffers when it comes to speaking in front of others, and that's fear. Fear can be the thing that holds you back from achieving your ultimate potential when it comes to communication. And that's important because public speaking has never been more important than it has been today. If you think about it, there are more situations where people get called upon now to speak in front of others, be it on mediums like YouTube or on any other internet medium, as well as at work and socially. Even if you're, a member of a rugby club, you might have to give a speech if you get an award, the same as, you might have to brief co-workers in a meeting at work. So it's important that we get on top of this. And that thing which can hold you back at the very beginning is fear. That thing which 75% of people when surveyed would say they suffer a morbid fear of speaking in front of others. But the point I'd like to make here is that's perfectly normal. It's absolutely normal because standing up and speaking to an audience of tens, hundreds, thousands of people in some cases is not normal at all. And that's why we feel uncomfortable or even terrified when our turn comes that we have to do it. So I'm going to give you some tips for me that I've used to overcome that fear which I've suffered on my journey. Because my journey started about a decade ago when I got involved with a charity which involved me giving educational talks to groups of older people in the first instance because it was trying to stop them becoming victims of financial abuse. And over time, that led to me getting involved with other elements of public speaking, things like after dinner talks, speaking to conferences, and now it's part of my daily life. It's not my job, it's merely something I do aside from my normal job, but it's something where I think the skills that I've picked up have really carried across to my professional life and have made me a far better, person in all elements of my life. I would never have thought that I would be able to stand in front of audiences all over the world. I've spoken at conferences in Europe, in the United States, in Canada, you name it, and I now approach these things with an element of confidence, whereas in the past I would have been struck dumb by the fear of the situation. So fear is that thing, the first hurdle to being a good public speaker, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. And accepting that this fear is normal is your first step to overcoming it, because it is normal to feel frightened when you're doing something which you're uncomfortable about. Now, if I was to ask people why do they feel fear, many would say, it's because I'm afraid of coming across badly when it's my turn to speak. I'm afraid of forgetting what I was going to say, or I'm afraid of, my co-workers looking at me and thinking less of me because of the way I'm able to present myself in this public speaking situation. Or I'll just look a fool. And that's normal. We all think that at some point or another, particularly in many cases if we're speaking about something we're not entirely certain of, which can often be the case, particularly when it comes to professional speaking, in a work environment. So that's why we feel the fear. But the fear is coming. right? You can go to a hypnotherapist. You can go to whoever you like. You can have a mentor who can talk to you about it. I can tell you all day long that the fear that's going to come knocking at your door is normal, but it's not going to help you because that fear is coming. It's a juggernaut. It's left the depot and it is going to hit you. And it's going to hit you at some point. Maybe in the morning when you wake up and you realize the gravity of what you've got to do that day. And certainly it might grip you that moment that you're just about to step in front of those other people, whatever it may be, in a meeting, on a stage, step in front of your audience, and you will get that, we all know that sensation, that looseness of the bowel, that lightness of the head, dryness of the mouth, tightening of the throat. Whatever affects you is going to affect you at that moment. And that's what we're ready to overcome. So first of all, understanding that the fear is normal and you're going to feel it, whatever you do, is your first step. Because if you are ready for something, you're more likely to overcome it. So knowing that that fear is coming is your first step. Understanding why you feel it is your second step. And then preparing for that fear will be your final step to overcoming it. So preparing can take all different sort of things. For a start, it's the physical preparation, as well as the mental. So the physical preparation is things like making sure that your body is the best that it can be for that event. So what I mean by that is don't go out the night before socializing with friends and stay up late, I don't know, drinking alcohol or eating, really unusual food. Because if you drink too much alcohol, for instance, because it makes you forget your worries, the next morning when you wake up, your worries have just come back. And now, on top of the worries you had already, now you've got a headache and a bad stomach as well. So, you've just exasperated the situation rather than making it better. If you haven't had enough sleep, well, you might feel a bit groggy. You might not feel, as sharp as you could be. So do your best to get a good night's sleep. If you can't sleep because you're worried about it, well, at least getting rest by lying in bed and clearing your mind is going to put you in a better stead than having a fitful night if you've been out drinking. The physical preparation extends to your stomach as well. So, if you've gone out the night before and you've had a spicy curry or Mexican, which you don't normally have, or even if you normally have and it doesn't normally affect your stomach, because of the adrenaline caused by the fear of public speaking, or the fear of any situation really, that fight or flight moment, your metabolism will speed up and you'll find that your stomach is having more difficulty coping with that spicy food or whatever you've had before the night. So it's best if you keep it simple, particularly in the morning. Right? If you're staying in a hotel, perhaps if you're speaking at a conference, you might feel that temptation to have, that cooked breakfast that you wouldn't normally have at home. Bacon and eggs and things like that. For me, I try and have a really simple breakfast, porridge, cereal, whatever it is, because I know my stomach will cope with that fine and it's not going to give me any unwelcome surprises when I get to the venue that I'm going to speak at. And I find myself then charging around trying to find a toilet or feeling nauseous and sick because, my stomach and my system is unaccustomed to this spicy food plus that metabolism spike that I'm feeling because I'm nervous anyway. So preparing for things physically is a really good way to start because at least then you're not going to get any unwelcome surprises from the body. Preparing mentally is another story altogether. And for me, that's knowing your stuff. So if you know what you're going to say, you're going to be far better prepared when the time comes. Knowing your information, your material, will give you a sense of calm confidence. Whereas if you go on stage or into your meeting or conference and you only half know what you're going to be talking about, that's where you get those twitches. You're worried then about not being able to remember these things. However, the other side of the coin is, if you know your stuff all the way through, you know how your equipment's going to work, you've made that sort of mental preparation, you're going to be in a far better position when the time comes that you're standing in front of that audience. But we'll talk about more of that in another episode in our public speaking preparation series. But really, that's all I really wanted to talk about today. It was about thinking about the fear that's going to come, being ready for it, and taking those very simple steps, physical and mental, which will put you in the best place that you can be when the time comes that you're standing there. And that can be anything. It can be wearing your lucky tie or your lucky underpants. It can give you that mental, boost, which means you feel that little bit better on that occasion. These little things. I do it every time. I do it every single time. And now I've come to enjoy these situations where I speak publicly. So that's the start. We'll leave it at that for now. We'll come back to it, and please click into some of the episodes that we have following so that you can carry on in your journey to being an excellent public speaker on the Chaps Guide. And while you're there looking at those other videos, remember to like this one and subscribe, because we're going to be bringing a lot more to you around this sort of topic, around learning life's hacks and looking good as well as you get older. So thanks for listening today, and I'll see you again very soon.